They laughed when I inherited nothing but an old, broken-down garage. What they didn't know was that garage held the one thing that could destroy them all, the truth. My name is Sarah. For 26 years, I was the spare child in my own family, the one nobody expected anything from, the one who got hand-me-downs while my older brother Ryan got everything new. When my father passed away, the family gathered like vultures for the will reading. And what happened that day changed everything. My father, Robert Hensley, built a mid-sized construction company from nothing, out of a small town in Ohio. By the time I was born, he was already a wealthy man, and already exhausted by the politics of his own household. My mother died when I was 7. After that, my grandmother practically raised me, while my father remarried within 2 years. My stepmother, Diane, brought her own son, Ryan, into the house. From day one, the message was clear: this was Ryan's home now. I was just visiting. Every birthday, Ryan got a new phone, a new truck, a new watch. I got "we'll see." Every school event, Diane would show up glowing for Ryan's achievements and forget mine entirely. My father, buried in work and guilt he never spoke about, let it happen. He wasn't cruel, he was just absent, and absence can hurt as much as cruelty. The one thing that was ever truly mine was a small, run-down garage at the back of our property. My father used to disappear there on Sunday mornings, tinkering with an old Chevy engine, and for reasons no one understood, he always took me with him, never Ryan. Those Sunday mornings were the only hours I had my father completely to myself. "This place is yours one day, Sarah," he told me once, when I was maybe 12. "Don't ever let anyone take it from you." I didn't understand what he meant. Not then. 15 years later, my father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He fought for 8 months. I moved back home to take care of him, cooking his meals, managing his medications, sitting with him through the worst nights. Diane visited when it was convenient. Ryan visited when there were papers to sign. The day of the funeral, family friends whispered the usual condolences. But by the evening, whispers turned into calculations. Everyone wanted to know one thing: what did the will say? We gathered a week later at the attorney's office. Diane wore black like it was a fashion statement. Ryan couldn't stop checking his phone. The attorney read it out plainly: the house, the company shares, the investment portfolio, the vehicles, all of it went to Ryan and Diane. To me, Robert Hensley left exactly one thing: the old garage at the back of the property, along with a sealed envelope addressed to me personally. Diane didn't even try to hide her smile. Ryan actually laughed, a short, ugly laugh he didn't bother swallowing. "A garage," he said. "That's fitting, actually." I said nothing. I picked up the envelope and walked out. That night, alone in my apartment, I opened it. Inside was a letter in my father's handwriting, shaky from illness but unmistakably his. "Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I owe you the truth. I was too much of a coward to tell you while I was alive. Everything Diane and Ryan believe they've inherited, the house, the shares, the accounts, none of it is truly theirs to keep, not the way they think. Go to the garage. Move the old workbench. Underneath, there's a floor safe. The combination is your mother's birthday. What you find there will explain everything, and it will protect you, if you're brave enough to use it." My hands were shaking by the time I got to the garage the next morning. Under the workbench, exactly where he said, was a floor safe I'd walked past my entire childhood without ever noticing. Inside were documents, property deeds, original stock certificates, and a second, earlier will, notarized 11 years before the one read at the attorney's office. In that earlier will, my father had structured the company shares into a private family trust, one that named me, not Ryan, as the majority beneficiary, with conditions that would only activate upon independent verification of the later will's authenticity. My father, it turned out, had suspected something long before he got sick. There were also bank statements showing transfers Diane had quietly moved out of joint accounts over several years, and a private investigator's report he'd commissioned 2 years earlier, one that detailed exactly how Diane and her brother-in-law, an estate attorney, had been slowly restructuring documents in Ryan's favor while my father's health declined. My father hadn't just left me a garage. He'd left me proof. I didn't confront them immediately. I hired a forensic accountant and an estate litigation attorney of my own, quietly, patiently. It took 4 months to build an airtight case. When I finally filed a will contest in probate court, presenting the original trust documents and the financial discrepancies, it triggered a full investigation. The final hearing was nothing like the quiet reading of the will. Diane's composure cracked completely when the earlier trust documents were presented. Ryan's lawyer tried to argue authenticity, but the notarization records and my father's private investigator's report closed every gap. In the end, the probate court upheld my father's original trust. I didn't take everything, that was never the point. I made sure Diane and Ryan kept the house, since my father had genuinely wanted them to have a home. But the company, the shares, and the investments that Diane had been quietly siphoning were restored to their rightful structure, with me as the majority stakeholder, exactly as my father intended before illness and guilt clouded his final decisions. Ryan doesn't laugh anymore when the garage comes up. They thought a broken-down garage was an insult, my father's careless afterthought, or worse, a joke at my expense. Instead, it was the one place he knew they'd never bother searching, because they never once thought I mattered enough to matter. My father spent his final months protecting me the only way he still could, quietly, patiently, from behind a locked floor safe under an old workbench. The people who underestimate you rarely check the places they've already dismissed. That's exactly where the truth tends to hide. If this story hit different for you, hit like and subscribe, more real reveal stories like this every week. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever been underestimated by your own family? I read every single one.